Hey everybody. All right, so here's my final review of the Sawstop PCS with the 3 horsepower and the 36-inch fence, router table, overarm dust boot, or overarm dust, and the mobile base. I did narrow this saw down from three saws total that I had narrowed my options down to. One, I was looking at the General. I like that cool new CNC type feel with the digital readout and all of that, but I just don't think that's for me just yet. I think I'll stick with this a little more traditional. Two, I was looking at the Laguna F3, I believe it was, and I decided to go with this for a couple reasons. One, that I didn't like the fence on the Laguna, and there were a couple other build things that just didn't sit right with me. This had everything I needed, plus I work out here alone a lot, so having that safety feature really just elevated that right to the top of the list, and I don't have any second guesses about making this decision. It is plenty strong. I do a lot of cuts at 34 for a couple of speaker parts that I do, and for a customer, and obviously my 32-inch fence on the Delta couldn't do it. So it all had to be done on sled. Now I can set it at 34, make those cuts real clean and easy and simple. It's strong. I've cut a lot of different heights and thicknesses and rips and cross cuts and angles. And this thing hasn't missed a beat. I love how it performs, and I don't question the decision I made to get it. I do have 2 points, one of them for sure, that I would say are a con. One, the router table, not the table in the fence system, but the insert. They don't offer one. Sawstop really should think about that. Not everybody wants a lift, because if you buy a lift, then you've got to buy a motor to go in the lift, so you've dropped another grand just to get the saw in the system. Since they make a lift, literally chop the plate off of it and just make that as an option. It's real simple, plus you'd sell that as a part. So I had to go with Kreg. Thankfully, Kreg offered an insert that went into the exact same hole, same dimensions. Obviously, I had to modify how the screws mounted to make it work, but I made it work. That would be my biggest complaint. Guys, Sawstop, make a plate, man. It's simple. The other thing would be the dust chute in here. It's not a huge deal, but they do have a hose literally running from the back of the machine up to the bottom of the blade, which is great. It does help pull more of that dust. However, dust that doesn't get encapsulated by that sits at the bottom of the cabinet. So you got to get in there and clean all that out. Kind of a pain. I mean, if I had a more traditional saw, I'd have to do that anyway, but at least the bulk of it would be pulled out, you know, with a sloped bottom. That would be a good solution. Maybe slope the bottom, so for easy clean out later. Anyway, but those are my 2 main points. The router table thing is the big one, in my opinion. And so just make yourself a little insert. It's easy for me to do with this overarm. I wasn't sure how I would like this, but I really do like this overarm dust. It's very easy to use. I love being able to drop that down, make my cuts. This helps pull a lot of those chips away. When I do close cuts, you know, anything within, say, 6 inches, I do find myself having to pull this up and get it out of the way, and in some cases, even swing it out of the way to make my cuts. But my gripper's mounted right on there, so I can easily grab my gripper and make my cuts, and I'm pretty happy with the result. That's not a complaint. That's still a benefit, having that overarm. So all in all, that's my take on that. Look for part 2 of this video. We'll be covering all of the things that I had to modify to make this new saw work. I had to update my sled, which we all know is a key component of my table saw. I had to update the outfeed, which I took advantage of that and went ahead and made a few benefits that I needed to be upgraded in that outfeed table anyway. So so stay tuned for part 2, and you'll see some pretty cool little things in there that when you buy a saw, you got to upgrade those things anyway. So I'll show you a few tips that I've got going on with mine that you might help you out when you upgrade your saw to whatever it may be. So look for part 2, and I do have some more upgrades coming up. I want to make a little drawer system for this. I want to build some undermount storage under the router table, as well as over here, and all that I guess is going to have to be mobile. I don't know. So stay tuned to see what I do for that later on. But this is part 1, assembling the Sawstop, and a review at the end, telling you my initial thoughts. And we'll see you in part 2 for all the add-on stuff for later. Well, this is Chris with Crisscross Crafts. And hey, good to be back, and we'll see you next time. we go. Yeah, I hit record.